Hey everyone, in this video we just wanted to spend a little bit of time going over the various drawing and editing tools that we have available in Measure Mobile. So tools that you can use to get your rooms drawn and make it easier to edit those rooms. So just one thing we'll begin with first is some settings that can influence how easy it is to draw rooms. So here in Measure Mobile I'm going to come down to the settings icon down here in the corner. And I'm going to point a couple things out here. So the first one is the snapping amount at the top here. So this is the amount or the increments in which we can move rooms around. I typically have mine set to, and I would recommend this for you as well, set to 0.01, so 0.01 meters that is, 1 centimeter. That's generally precise enough. It gives you a good degree of granularity, but it's also not ridiculous. 1 centimeter is fine. So that's one setting. Another one, and this is more of a personal preference, is this one right down here, Show Default Walls. Some of you may have already seen this. So to show you what that does, I'm going to draw a room. Okay, so we have a room, and there is a wall thickness around it. So the floor area that the material is going in is still within these inside black borders, but there is an extra wall outside. The reason we have that so that when you draw a room and you position another room next to it, you can space things out by a wall thickness. Okay, if we turn that off, so we're going to come in here and say, do not show default walls. We'll do save. You can see that there are now no walls. So now we can't snap at a wall increment apart. It would snap internally. So that's more of a personal preference. Turn that on if you want to. Now if you have it turned on, so let's turn that back on again. And let's hit save, and I'm just going to bring this into view. Okay, if you have it turned on, a companion setting that you'll want to pay attention to is the wall thickness. So set that to whatever your walls, or how thick your walls typically are. You can always come in here per project and change that if it varies across projects. So I have mine set to 0.1. And another setting you want to pay attention to is the Extends Through Doorways setting. So this is when you add a transition in, a doorway, and you tell the product that you want it to flap through into the doorway. This is how far into the doorway it will flap. So typical practice is to set this to however thick you have your walls so that the flap goes all the way through and touches the room on the other side. Okay, so Extends Through Doorways and default wall thickness. Pay attention to those when you are using the default walls or when you have it turned on. Okay, so that's just a couple of things to begin with. So I'm going to delete these rooms. Okay, so the first tool we're going to go over is Quick Room. So you would have seen me use it a moment ago. So plus icon down here at the bottom is how you get to your drawing tools. So there are basically 3 ways to get rooms drawn in Measure. We either have Quick Rooms, we have Touch Draw, and we have Line Draw. We'll come back to these two in a moment. So starting off with Quick Rooms. A lot of rooms that you come across, especially bedrooms and hallways and things, are going to look like one of these shapes. So if you see the shape that you want, even if it's not rotated around the right way, pick it up. So let's say we have a room that looks like this. Okay, so there it is. We've got our room in. Now you can always modify this room after you've popped it in. You can use these handles to edit it. So the square ones will drag, and keep it square. The circle ones will skew the corner like this. So just keep that in mind. And what you're also going to notice is that with these editing handles up, if I tap over here on the white space, so the editing handles disappear, and if I tap on this room again, they're not there. I've lost my ability to edit that room. If you would like to bring those editing handles back, we call them handles. So if you'd like to bring them back, this icon right up here, so the little pencil and ruler icon, so with the room selected, you tap on that, and you'll unlock them again. The reason it's like that is that on a touchscreen device, when you have lots of rooms and you're dragging them around, it could be quite easy to accidentally drag a room or the edge of a room when you meant to just move the room or you were just panning around the plan. So that extra step prevents accidental room adjustments. Now, as far as editing this room maybe more precisely is concerned, if we tap on a measurement, like this one here for example, so it's currently 2.19. When you tap on it, you have a keypad over here. If you had a disto connected, you could maybe use the disto as well, but for now we'll use the keypad. So if I type in a new measurement, let's say 2.5, and hit the tick icon, it's going to adjust that wall to 2.5 in the direction the arrow head was pointing, and it's going to move automatically to the next line. So you can walk around your room just typing in measurements, measuring them off the wall, typing them in here, and work your way right round back to the beginning. So let's say that one also was 2.5. We can do that. This bottom one is maybe 4.8. You get the idea. So that's a really easy way to get the measurements added in. So by picking the quick room, we've basically picked the shape. We know the measurements aren't going to be right, but we've set the shape, and now you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Now I said before, even if it's not rotated around the right way, you would still pick up the quick room. So that begs the question: how do we rotate or flip the room if we need to, if it's not around the right way initially? So when you have the room selected, you'll see up top here we have a number of tools. So this first one that I'm going to point out, this is your rotate tool. So when you tap on that, you're going to get these little rotating handles around the perimeter of the room. Basically, you just tap and drag on one of those rotating handles, and you can adjust the room to a different orientation. Also up here we have flipping tools or mirroring tools. So if I hit this one, it's going to flip the room or mirror it horizontally or vertically. All right, so you can use those to orient the room correctly. Now also up here we have a splitting tool. So let's say you drew the room, but there are actually two different materials going in this room. This section up here is going to maybe have hard flooring, this bottom section carpet, so you would want to split the room through this section here. You may draw it like that to begin with, but let's say you started with this shape. So with the room selected, because just remember these tools here are not going to show up if the room is not selected. Right? So if you're not seeing them, just tap on the room in question and they should appear. So this tool right here, we're going to tap on that. And it's going to give us a line on the room, and we can adjust where this line appears. So if I zoom in a little bit here, we're going to move that to there. We're going to bring this up until it says 2.14. There we go, so we know we're square. So with that set up like that, you can read the little message there if you want, or if you forget how it works. So with that lined up there, we can come up here and you'll see it's currently highlighted blue, so it's waiting for us to do something. So if we hit this again, you'll see it makes the split. Now if you have default walls turned on, you're going to notice that we now have these walls on both these edges. But because this is there isn't actually a wall there, we don't really want those edges to show up. Ideally, we'd be able to get rid of them. So to do that, so we're going to start off with this room here, so we'll tap on it. We'll open up the editing for that room, so we'll tap on our pencil and ruler icon. We're going to pick this edge down here. And this option right here, this is going to let us drop or hide the wall on that room. So if we do that, you'll see it disappears. And if I drag this out now, you'll see it's now missing its edge, or missing its wall, I should say. And maybe you want to do this to this other room here. We're going to edit it. Now, what you'll notice here is that we only really want to drop the wall from this point here. We don't want to drop all of the wall. So we can pick on this edge. We can use this tool now. So this is going to let us add a point in. So we see we've added a new point. You would adjust this to where it needs to go. And then you could specifically drop the wall on that edge right there. So that brings us on to another way to edit rooms. So let me just add another quick room in. So in addition to clicking on these walls or tapping on these walls and adjusting measurements, we can add extra points. So with this edge selected, for example, we could add that point in like we did before, the little plus icon up there. So we have a new point, and now we could drag this portion out at the bottom. All right, so if you want to change the shape a little bit beyond the quick room, that's one way you can do that. There's another use case for adding points that we'll come to later on. Next to it, you'll notice we have a minusing version of that tool, so this is going to take away points. So, for example, if the reason you drew this section out like this was to square it off because there's actually an angle that you wanted to get in here. We want to delete this point so that it then goes down to being on an angle. So if we tap on an edge like this and use the minus icon, it's going to delete this point. So the behavior here that you want to remember is that whatever line you have selected is going to be the base of the arrow. That's going to be the point that gets deleted. So if I tapped on this point here, or this wall here, if I hit the minus icon, it would be this point that got deleted, which in this case is not what I want. I would want to pick on this wall here. All right, so we're going to hit the minus icon, and you'll see it deleted that point, and it just went down to being on an angle. All right, so that's another way that you can shape the room. You can kind of carve it out and chip it down to being what you want. Next to those plus and minus icons, you'll notice we have some curve tools. So if you have a wall, so let's say this one at the bottom here, and it actually needs to be out on a curve. In fact, you know what? A better example would be a room like this. So let's say you have a room like this, and this is actually a curved shower that sits in the corner here. And so we would want to bend this wall to being curved on the inside. So we might tap on that edge there. Maybe you drew the room like this, or you used a quick room. You would pick on this curve tool here. It's going to bend it outwards initially, but we can drag inwards like that. And then we can use these little handles here on stalks. We can drag them in a little bit to adjust the curve. And there we go. We have our curved shower. And maybe again, like we did before, you want to come in to make it a little bit clearer. You want to drop the wall on that edge. The other curve tool we have there, just to demonstrate that one also, so let me tap on this bottom edge. This is still a curve tool, but it is not symmetrical. So you see if I drag this point here, it just adjusts one side at a time, whereas the other tool was adjusting it symmetrically. So if you have a wacky, unusual curve that you need to set, then that would be the tool for you. And you'll see while we have the curve up, we also have an option to return it to being a straight wall if you wanted to go back. Or you could also use the undo button. All right. Now, if you have to position rooms together, there are some tools to help you there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out these rooms, so let's get something nicer. I'm just going to put a couple of basic rooms in. Okay, so we have something like this. Now, if you want to move these two rooms together so they line up like that, sometimes that's quite simple to do, but there might be times when it's a little tricky to get it just in the right spot. So there's a tool to help you with that. If we tap on both of these rooms, this tool right here, the little purple icon, so we're going to tap on that. It would now like us to select 2 points that it will then, it will pull them together so that those 2 points meet. So maybe these bottom two corners, say they need to be touching. So we're going to tap on one room and then the other. Now the order here is important. The first room you tap on, or the corner of the first room you tap on, that's going to be the room that stays where it is. It's going to be the second room that moves. So we have them selected in that order. Now if we tap on this purple icon again, it will adjust those rooms so that they move together. So that's another way you can position things. Just also while we have two rooms selected, you'll notice we have some other icons up here. So we also have a merging and a punching out tool. So the way we use that is if we overlap two rooms like this and we tap them together, or we have both of them selected, this tool here will merge them together. So sometimes it's easier to draw a complicated room as two halves, piece them together, and then merge them together. So I'm going to undo that. The opposite version of that tool that you have up there is a punching out tool. So if we hit that, it's going to punch the room on top, which would be the room that was drawn last. It's going to punch that room out into the bottom one. So you'll see it's left a little corner punched out of that room right there. Okay, so we've dealt with mostly with the quick rooms so far. Let's move on to those other two methods of drawing that I mentioned. So let's clear these rooms out. So we're going to go back into our plus menu, and these two tools right here. So we're going to start with Touch Draw. So Touch Draw allows you to sketch a basic shape out, and you don't have to do it in one complete line. You can, as you can see here, I'm doing it in multiple steps. You don't have to be a great artist here. You can be reasonably rough, and it will still work out, because what's going to happen next when I hit this tick icon up here in the corner is it's going to square my room off. So I'll tick it, and you'll see it straightened everything out. It assumes straight lines and 45s here and there. So the best use case here is if you have a boxy, as in a right angle room, or a room with right angle corners that is not in the Quick Room library. This is a very easy way to get it in. So you remember that with Quick Rooms, the idea was that we're just getting the shape in, and then we adjust the measurements and set the proportions after that. So think of Touch Draw the same way. So we have our shape defined. We do need to give it one measurement, so it initially can set some dimensions. So let's say this bottom section here is 5 meters, and you can change it to another wall if it was a different wall you wanted to go with. So let's say this bottom wall is 5 meters. So we'll tap on that, and we'll set 5, and give it the tick. Right, so there we go. Now we have our shape, and now just like we did with the Quick Room before, we can just tap on a measurement and start giving it the real measurements and work our way around the room. Right, so Touch Draw is quite useful. Now, the other drawing tool we have in here, Line Draw. So the way you can think about these three different drawing tools is that Quick Room is what maybe you'd start with. If that's no good, then maybe you defer to Touch Draw. If it is still a boxy room, but it's just not in the Quick Room library. And then finally, if it's unusual, if it's maybe an odd-shaped room, then you might want to fall back to Line Draw. So Line Draw basically allows you to take a measurement, whether that's typing it in with the keypad or connecting a disto. So maybe 2.3 is the first measurement, so you type that in, but you have to give it a direction. So maybe it goes this way. Next measurement, next direction, and you work your way around the room like that. You'll notice, though, that every time I give it a direction, I'm limited to 45 and 90 degree angles. So if you wanted to set something other than 90 degree angles, so let me just go up here for a moment. So let's say the 3 meter measurement that should go this way, it's slightly that way a little. So you might start off by sending it off approximately in the right direction, but then you can pick up this arrowhead and you can drag it a little bit. So you'll see there's an angle indicator over here, so you can adjust it to the right angle. All right. Now, as you're drawing this room, if you realize later on that you made a mistake, and perhaps this 1 meter measurement here was in fact, let's say 0.8, you got around the room and things weren't lining up, and you went back and you realized, okay, that was where I went wrong. So you can tap on that edge. You can come up here and just type a new measurement, so maybe 0.9. So let's do tick. And you'll see it adjusts just that one measurement. If you want to go back to drawing, tap on the white space, and now we can resume drawing. If there is one angle in the room, what I would recommend, and a lot of you probably know about this trick already, what I would recommend doing is leave that angle to be the last wall. So let's say this last edge here, it's the angle, and I've left it to the end. That allows me to take advantage of this tool. So this is going to close the room off, and in the process, figure out that angle for me. Now, if there is more than one angle, you'll have to determine what those other angles are and use the tool where you can drag the red arrowhead to get those angles, but it might be that you leave the trickiest angle to the end. So I've just come back into the Line Draw tool again, because I want to show you a couple of other things in here. So as you're working around the room, if you get partway around and then you think it would have been better if I came at this from the other angle. So I started over here and maybe I came counterclockwise around the room, but now I'm wishing I went clockwise around the room. No problem. This tool right up here, so it looks like two arrows pointing in opposite directions. If you hit that, it will swap the end of the line you're drawing to this other end. And now you can go at the room from this angle. All right. Some other tools of note in here is that you have an undo button, of course, just up there. That's quite useful. And these two tools here, this will let you go back on the angles you drew. So you can see I can move around to select a different angle. So perhaps there was a very, very small line that I drew, and I need to adjust it, and maybe it's a little difficult to tap on because of how small it is. I could tap on a line near it, and then use these tools to move around to select that specific edge so that I can adjust the measurement. All right. Now, if you get partway around and you don't want this drawing anymore, you have a trash can icon, so you can clear it out and start afresh. All right. Next, I want to show you a couple of other tools for modifying the perimeter of a room. So let's say we have this room here, and we've already drawn it. So let's open up the editing handles. All right. I want to point out a couple of behaviors when it comes to modifying the edges of these rooms. So you'll see from before that when we tapped on an edge, we could come over here and we could adjust the measurements. We could say instead of 2.6, we want 2.7. So the behavior you want to keep in mind here is that the direction of the arrowhead is important. Whatever side of the wall the arrowhead is pointing at, that is going to be the side that moves when you adjust the measurement. And that's true whether you're making it bigger or smaller. So if I made this smaller, maybe I made it 2.5, or maybe let's say 2.6 actually. So we'll do 2.6. It's going to be this end of the line that goes in to achieve the 2.6. All right, just like that. It didn't move by much, but you'll see it popped in there a little bit. Now, if you don't want this end of the line to move, you actually want maybe this end. So let's say we wanted to change this to 2.7, but this was fine. You just wanted this end of the line to come out a little bit to achieve the 2.7. The way you would do that is you'd start off with that wall selected, this icon right up here. So we've used it a couple times before. When we hit this, it's going to swap the direction of that arrowhead so that we're now going the other way. So now it's going to be this end of the line that moves to achieve the 2.7. All right, just like that. So it doesn't matter which way the line's pointing, you can always flip it around if you need to send it the other way, or make the line expand the other way. Now we also have those advanced or next and previous buttons. So once again, if there was a wall that was quite small and you needed to adjust it and you can't quite tap on it, tap on something near it or that you can tap on, and then use these tools here to just move around the room till you get to the wall that you're after. Now, next thing I want to go over is a couple of examples involving doorways. So it's going to use a couple of techniques that we've already gone over. So let's say, for example, that these two rooms are sitting next to each other like this, and there is a doorway in here. As some of you may already know, the way you add doorways in is you select a transition in the plus menu. So you might have a doorway sitting like this. Okay? Now, these two rooms, because they are separate rooms, are going to be separate pieces of carpet. However, in some cases, you want there to be one larger flowing piece of carpet that goes through the doorway. You don't want there to be a join in here. So either you would draw this all as one room in the first place, but sometimes, of course, you have them as separate rooms like this, and you have this transition in there with the material flapping through, but now you want to merge them together. You want it to become one room. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. The easiest way that we've found is, so I'm going to start off by deleting this doorway. The easiest way we've found is if you add a new quick room in, the square quick room, and you shrink this down to be as thick as the doorway should be, so maybe that should be 0.82. And of course you can always just tap on that edge and manually adjust it to 0.82. Right? If you straddle it over the two rooms like this, and it doesn't matter how long it is this way, what matters is where it's positioned this way. Right? So you straddle it where the doorway is supposed to go. We're going to tap on all three rooms, and we're going to now use the merging tool that I demonstrated several minutes ago. And you'll see it merges it all together as one room. So we now have a joining piece here, and it's even kept these internal rooms because that's what the perimeter does. All right? So that's one way you can work with doorways. Another way you could have done that I personally think the straddling the rectangle is the easiest way to do it, but I'm going to show you this other way just to show you your options. So once again, for this other method, you would still delete the doorway, but what you'd do instead is you would edit one of the rooms. So you would tap on that pencil ruler icon to open up your editing handles. So we're going to tap on that edge. We're going to add 2 points. So we're going to hit the point button, the plus point button twice, just to quickly put 2 points in. So there's 1 point, there's the other. You're then going to adjust those points, to where they need to go. And maybe it would be easier to do this by tapping on this wall, typing in 0.7, and then tapping on this next one and typing in 0.82. Maybe that's the width of the doorway. So however you do it, you'd get those points in the right spot. Now that you've done that, you can take the square handle right here and drag this out so that maybe you just want to make it touch the room, or you want to make it go right into it. Probably right into it's better. And now that you've done that, you can now merge these two rooms together. Right? And we get the same result. So there's two ways to do that. As I said, I personally think drawing or just dragging the rectangle in is the easier way to make that work. All right, so that's what we wanted to go over today. All the different ways that you can draw and edit rooms and measure. There is quite a bit of power in those editing tools. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. If you do have any questions or there's anything you wanted to see us go over again, then please, of course, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd be happy to jump online with you and go over some of these drawing tools. Thanks.